So I've heard through the grapevine that some in our field are currently frustrated, and they're wondering, how do you continue to be an upstander and an effective preventionist in our current climate? So the good news is there's no one way to be an activist in fighting sexual violence. We have different skills and we also have different roles. So if you are the best protester, go for it. We need to have clear voices that speak truth to power. And when I talk about speaking truth to power, I mean affirming a core principle. We don't believe that anyone has the right to force their sexual or violent desires on another individual. Period. That's our principle. And depending on our role and our skill, that's going to come out very differently. But if you're an educator, or you truly believe that your gift is in getting people to see things differently, that's about the long game. That's figuring out, okay, how can I say this so they can hear it? So here's an example. So our motto is fight fire with funny. There are tactical ways we use humor to engage, and the research supports this tenfold. One of the things that we do is we use humor to establish a respectful rapport. Studies show that we're able to listen to ideas that are different from our own if we like the messenger. It's kind of like when a comedian will say to a crowd full of strangers, "Have you ever noticed?" And the entire crowd laughs hysterically. And again, we're not talking rocket science. We're talking with one call to observe. We bring a room full of individuals together as a community. And then we can start building our community and our arguments. So part of that is rapport building. The other part of that is maintaining the relationship. If you think about it, the people that you like the most probably are the ones that make you laugh the hardest. Because that humor, it has almost a narcotic effect on you. I mean, in fact, we know that people retain information far better when they're happy. Another way in which we fight fire with funny is embedded within the structure of a joke itself. So I started doing stand-up when I was 15, and I watched it voraciously, and I was able to figure out that each joke was an equation. It was an argument that said, I as the comedian have this worldview, and I want you to see it, but I know I need to start with where you are and start building connections so my punchline will work. I think of that educational equation all the time when I think of sex signals, when I think of any of our programs, because I have to start with where you are if you're going to laugh at my joke. I can't just teach the punchline. And if I want to get an audience to understand what rape is and why they have to become an upstander, I need to go all the way back to, have you ever noticed that we tolerate a whole bunch of weird sexual aggression? Isn't that weird? Why do we do that? And then all of a sudden, with comedy, I'm able to say, why do we do that? I use humor to ground this in our experience as humanity, and we're flawed. But if we can save face and go, oh, I never thought of it that way before, and we're not shamed, we can learn and we can become better. Well, first of all, you don't have to be funny to utilize these concepts, but we can use the principles that undergird this concept, which is to utilize principle over politics or any kind of divisiveness, where I can say, I know that we all agree on this. We don't want innocent people to be preyed upon by bad folks, right? So I'm going to start with agreement. That's where we are. And we can bond with the person we're trying to talk to. You can acknowledge that sometimes it's confusing, and the reason why it's confusing is we get tons of mixed messages about what's acceptable today. But then we drill down to our principle, which is essentially the punchline of this argument, which is, but now that we know that that's not cool, we have to do something about it. I'm just going to point out what the principle is, because politics can change, legislation can change, principle is eternal.